फिर एक बार मैं माननीय कानून और न्याय मंत्री को बधाई देता हूँ। धन्यवाद।
श्री भर्तृहरि मेहताब जी।
Thank you, sir. The Office of Election Commission of India came into existence in the 50s, but it was in 1991 that the Parliament first framed the law. And today, when the Law Minister stood up to place the bill for consideration and passing after it has been passed in Rajya Sabha, he categorically stated one thing was lacking in 1991 law, and that was pointed out.
Please. आप मेहताब साहब.
And that was pointed out by the Supreme Court after a public interest litigation was filed, and Supreme Court said Parliament has to frame the law relating to appointment of Election Commission of India, Chief Election Commission of India. So on that basis, now a bill is before us for consideration. And number of things have come up while the bill is in public domain, and the major issue that came up for discussion, deliberation and criticism is that government is appropriating full power to appoint Chief Election Commissioner. Supreme Court had suggested a model, and in that model it was the Prime Minister of India, it was leader of opposition in Lok Sabha or the largest group in opposition in Lok Sabha, and Chief Justice of India. But those people who are criticizing it fail to go into the details of the judgment of the Supreme Court, where it's categorically stated that this is for a temporary period until and unless the Parliament frames a law. And today, before the Parliament, the bill has been prepared by the government, by the executive, as is the practice in our country. Whatever bills are to be framed, are to be placed in the Parliament, are to be placed by the government itself for framing a law. But one thing we should not forget of Article 324 of our Constitution, that states that the Election Commission will comprise the Chief Election Commissioner and such election commissioners as the President may decide. And this clearly stipulates that means the executive will suggest to the President and President's notification will come. The Constitution specifies that the President will appoint the CEC and ECs subject to the provisions of an Act of Parliament. In the Constituent Assembly, the executive role in appointing the CEC and EC was discussed as the President acts on the aid and advice of the Prime Minister. Dr. Ambedkar, it is pointed out that the election machinery should be out of the control of the government. Members of the Constituent Assembly agreed to leave the appointment mechanism of the ECI to the discretion of Parliament. Here there was a little distinction between Parliament making the law and executive appointing the CEC and EC. In 1991, as I had stated earlier, Parliament passed the Election Commission Act, setting the salary of the CEC and ECs at the same level as the Supreme Court judge. It did not provide for their appointment process, which continued to be decided by the President. In March 2023, sir, the Supreme Court declared that their appointment should not be done by the executive. It mandated a selection process which would hold until Parliament makes a law. The court directed that the appointment should be done by the President on the recommendations of the Selection Committee. The Selection Committee will consist of the Prime Minister, Leader of Opposition in Lok Sabha, and Chief Justice of India. Now, this bill is making a correction to it. The bill before us today has a Selection Committee, but instead of Chief Justice of India, it has a Cabinet Minister proposed by the Prime Minister. Sir, the subject, it is said the Selection Committee is dominated by the government. The critics say the government has a majority, which may undermine the independence of the Election Commission of India. But are we not aware that the heads of several other independent bodies, such as Chief Information Commission, Central Vigilance Commission, are also appointed by a panel similar to the one proposed by this bill? The constitutional bodies, such as Union Public Service Commission and Comptroller and Auditor General of India, the appointment is made by the President. And here I am inclined to mention, sir, the Chief Justice of India being in the committee to recommend the appointment raises the question of the violation of the doctrine of separation of power, as the appointment fall in the domain of the executive. Since the Chief Justice of India is going to be a member of the, as it was proposed that time, recommending committee, in case there is a case of impropriety that comes up against the Election Commission of India members in the court, it would cause embarrassment to the office of Chief Justice of India. The court also had rejected, we should not forget, the court had also rejected the National Judicial Appointment Commission and refused to involve an elected executive on the pretext of judicial independence being the basic structure. But in this case, how can it be prudent to be a part of the Selection Committee? Finally, amidst all the talk of democratic backsliding in India in certain forums, it is notable that nothing is being said about the lack of fairness or integrity of the election process. The credit for this goes to Election Commission of India. Sir, Supreme Court, of course, noted that the ECI stands on a higher pedestal in constitution schemes due to its functional duties. In our Constitution, Parliament is supreme law-making body, and the Supreme Court has the power to judicially review the constitutionality of every law. I believe Election Commission has to be independent of the executive. The appointment of CEC and ECs so far have been fair and politically neutral. Sir, people expect Election Commission to be fair to all parties. They must enforce the code of conduct with an iron hand, just like it was done by Mr. Session, but without his abrasiveness. Most of the CECs who followed Session in office did just that. They dispensed justice with firmness, but without pomp and show. So today, our primary focus should be not on the presence or absence of the Chief Justice of India in the Select Committee, but on ensuring the structural and operational independence of the Election Commission of India. By giving the power or by retaining the power to the executive to appoint Chief Election Commission is akin to giving a player the power to appoint the umpire. For more than 70 years, the Election Commission has overseen and upheld the integrity of all national elections. It has kept nation's democratic nature untarnished. And that is the reason why, world over, people look up to our election processes, and at times they also invite our election commissioners to be witness to their elections. It is clear that Article 324 has been crucial, making Election Commission of India carrying out its responsibility from outside interference. And this brings me to make a comparison that how other countries, other parliamentary democracies have fared have appointed their election commission. Goswami Committee has recommended certain things in 1990. After that, in 1991, our a law was being framed. But when we compare it with South Africa, with United Kingdom, with United States, and with Canada, we find a marked difference. There, the election commission is totally independent from the executive, though at times they are responsible to the Senate or to the Parliament. As here in our law, impeachment has become a provision where if a CEC has to be removed, he can only be removed as it is done for the judges of Supreme Court. And the correction has already been made in Rajya Sabha amendment, and I believe that is the right direction which the government has taken by keeping at par the CEC with the judges of Supreme Court. Thank you, sir.
श्री शंकर लालवानी जी।